Recently, I was cleaning out my Google Drive, and I came across two old videos that I had completely forgotten about. They're actually the only ones left from a small set my friend sent me a few years ago. He claimed he found them inside a map he downloaded. I didn't really think much of them back then, but looking at them now, they're a little strange. To start, we open up to the old Minecraft main menu. Our protagonist clicks single player, revealing two worlds, one that's 1.58 megabytes in slot 1 and another that's 3.42 megabytes in slot 2. They select the second world. The world loads and immediately shows two things. First, that this is Minecraft Alpha version 1.0.16, and second, that we're in some kind of small dirt room with a chest and a torch. From the layout, we can assume it's a basement, since there's a staircase going up and another going down. Almost instantly, the player looks hard to the right, for no clear reason, then snaps to the left just as quickly as before. But then everything suddenly goes back to normal, like nothing happened. They walk over to the chest, but instead of opening it, they open their inventory, and then just look at themselves. Not their items or anything useful, but just themselves. After that, they open the chest and take out a mushroom stew, which doesn't really make sense because in this version of the game, there isn't even a hunger bar and they haven't even taken damage, so there's not a reason to grab it. Then they head downstairs towards what appears to be a mine shaft, but just before reaching the bottom, they suddenly stop, turn around, and go back up for no obvious reason. When they get back to the dirt room, they continue upstairs into the main part of the house. When they get to the top, we see what looks like a basic wooden starter house, but something is clearly wrong. All of the windows have been covered with dirt, and there's a sign that reads, "Don't go out, not at night," which is not only strange advice, but also worded incorrectly. The player looks around like they weren't the one who did this, as if they don't recognize the state of their own home. They go over to some of the dirt and break it, revealing a door. Behind the door, we can see that it's nighttime. But even with the warning on the sign, they still decide to go out into the night. As soon as they step outside, the movement starts to get a little erratic again, especially when they notice the light in the distance. They keep moving, but it almost looks panicked now. They keep looking back at the house and up at the sky, like they're checking for something. Or someone. After a moment, they seem to regain some control and close the door behind them, and start heading towards the light. But as they walk, the movement becomes more and more unstable, like they're actively trying to fight something that's pulling them in a different direction. Then the game menu suddenly opens. They close it and keep going, but it opens again, and again, and eventually this stops feeling accidental. By the time they reach the structure, it's clear that it's made out of cobblestone with a torch on it. They start mining into it, but instead of using the iron pickaxe they have, they switch back to the older stone one. After breaking a couple of the blocks, they reveal something inside. A single log just sitting on the ground with no real explanation. They try to move inside, but suddenly turn away, like they're losing control again. Then, almost in a rush, they place back the cobblestone blocks where they were and start running away, still struggling with movement as the menu opens again. Then the recording just ends. The second clip is shorter, and it doesn't really have any more context. It starts with the player crafting planks, which gives us a clear look at their inventory. Most of it's the same, but there are a few differences. The iron pickaxe has been used, and the stone one is now gone, and there's a sign and an extra torch in their inventory. It's unclear whether it's the same sign from the previous recording or not. We can also now see that this is Minecraft Alpha version 1.0.17_04. After crafting, they turn, and we can see that they're back in the same house. The windows are still covered with dirt, but the doors aren't, and now it's daytime. They step outside briefly and look around, but then go right back in, almost like they don't want to stay out there. They head back downstairs, through the same basement, and towards what looks like a strip mine. At first, everything is normal. They're mining, placing torches, progressing like you'd expect. But then they break into a small room. Inside, there's an oak log sitting on top of iron ore with a torch on it. When they step down into the room, it reveals a cobblestone stair that lines up almost perfectly with the staircase above. That placement isn't random, and it's not natural generation either. It feels intentional. As soon as they seem to realize that, they panic. They run out of the mine, placing blocks behind them as fast as they can, trying to seal it off. They keep going up the stairs, still trying to place blocks. Once they reach the top, they add a couple more before rushing onto the main floor and completely sealing off the basement. And then there's a jump cut. Now the player's outside again, approaching the house from behind with the exact same hotbar. They scroll through their items, like they're checking for something, and the game menu opens again briefly before being closed. In the distance, we can still see the same cobblestone structure. They start walking towards it, and suddenly it cuts to night. But something's off. The colors look wrong, and on a closer inspection, it's clear that the game is now in 3D mode, which was an old setting for 3D glasses that's been removed from the game. As they keep moving, the movement starts to break again. It's more erratic, less controlled, like something is interfering directly. They start to approach a hill, and there's another jump cut in the footage. Now they're on the other side. 3D mode is gone, but the game menu keeps opening over and over again. They continue moving, but at some point, it becomes clear they're not even heading towards the cobblestone structure anymore. They're just walking out into the wilderness. The movement just keeps getting worse, more jittery, more unstable, and then the video just ends. And that's it. That's all the footage we have to go off of. And what makes all these clips so strange isn't just what happens, it's how consistent it is. Because if you look at everything together, there's a pattern. The player loses control in very specific moments, when they're near something important or when they're about to interact with something they probably shouldn't. The first time it happens is when they go outside at night, right when they notice the light in the distance. And it gets worse as they get closer to it. By the time they actually reach the cobblestone structure, the game is actively interrupting them, with the menu opening over and over again, like something's trying to stop them from getting inside. And even when they do break in, they don't act normally. They switch to the worst tool, hesitate, then turn back entirely like they're being pulled back. The second clip reinforces that, because now we know that this isn't a one-time glitch. The world has updated, time has passed, and whatever is happening is still happening. The underground room lines up with the staircase above in a way that isn't natural generation. It also matches the structure outside. Same materials, same kind of placement, same feeling it was put there intentionally. And the player's reaction is immediate. They don't explore it, they don't ask questions, they panic and seal it off as fast as possible. That tells you they understand something we don't. And then there's the jump cuts. The player's position changes, but their inventory doesn't. The hotbar stays the same and items don't update. Yet time clearly passes. Day turns to night. Even the game itself changes with things like 3D mode appearing and disappearing. This shouldn't happen. So whatever this is, it's not just happening in the world. It's affecting the recording, the game state, and maybe even multiple sessions at once. And then there's the movement. It never looks random. It looks like resistance, like something's trying to guide the player in one direction, and they're trying to go another. Sometimes they win, but sometimes they don't. But it's always tied to the same things, the structure, the underground room, and whatever connects the two. So if you put all that together, the simplest explanation isn't that something is chasing the player, it's that something is trying to control where they go. And the harder question is why? Looking at everything together, the most consistent answer isn't that the world is trying to stop the player from finding something. It's that the world is trying to build something, and the player keeps getting in the way of it. Because the structures we see don't behave like single locations you're meant to discover. They show up in pieces. The cobblestone structure outside, the underground room, the repeated use of logs and specific block placements, they all follow the same style, but they're not actually connected. It looks less like one structure, and more like multiple attempts to place the same thing. The underground room lines up with the player's house, not because it connects to it, but because it's being generated relative to it. Like the world is using the player's position as a reference point. That would also explain why logs keep appearing. They're not decoration, and they're not useful in context. They look like base pieces, something that belongs to whatever is being built, showing up each time the process starts. And once you look at it that way, the interference makes more sense, because it only happens when the player gets close to these locations, or moves through the space where something's trying to be placed. The movement corrections, the menu opening, the loss of control, it doesn't feel like something reacting emotionally or randomly. It feels like the game itself is trying to resolve a conflict, like two things are trying to occupy the same space at the same time, the player and whatever the world is trying to generate. And instead of stopping the process, the game is forcing small corrections, pushing the player away, interrupting inputs, doing just enough to let whatever this is continue. And in the second clip, after the player panics and seals everything off, that interference starts to happen less directly, not because it's gone, but because the player isn't standing in the way anymore. And after that, in the second clip, they never go back, not by accident, they walk away from it, out into the wilderness, still fighting for control, until the video just ends. And that's what the world wants.